Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last session for the Christmas, come on, Easter holiday. Now, today we're going to deal with a very important chapter, the chapter 20 on money demand and supply. We'll go with the money supply first because, say, for DSE exam, 95% of the time they are asking about the money supply. Now, money supply. Okay, we first look at the definition of money supply. Money supply actually refers to the amount of money stock in the economy. All right. So this is what we call a stock concept. That means at a particular moment in time, how much money are there? How much money are being issued? So this is what we call, in a general sense, the money supply. So the stock of money, the total stock of money, that means printed, the total stock of money printed, including what we call two components, includes two components. Number one is the currency in circulation. That means the money we are using, say, on a daily basis, money in your pocket, money that is in the market, people doing trade, using them to buy goods and services, settle transactions, etc. Plus, the second component is the bank deposits. Now, not all printed money are flowing in the market. Well, you can imagine that, right? You have your dad and mom gave you $1,000 or $2,000 for your monthly expense. Well, you don't keep that $2,000 in your pocket all the time. Instead, okay, you keep $400 in your pocket and then $1,600 in the bank. So these are absolutely legal tender, as we have covered yesterday. They're legal tender in Hong Kong, and you deposit into the bank. So they are 100% valid and legal money. And this printed money, this $1,600 is with the bank. And therefore, they are in our money supply, but they are not currency in circulation because they are not in your pocket ready for making transactions or so. They are sitting there in the bank, vault, or whatever you call it. Okay. Now, second thing, getting more complicated. The money supply, we have three common money supply, M1, M2, and M3. Now, sometimes you will see this M0 as well. Now, M0 is not a money supply. M0 normally refers to the total money stock, which is exactly here. This one, well, we do not consider it to be a money supply. All right, it refers to the total amount of money printed in the economy. Now, we go to that one later on. Now, our focus right now is, well, what is the difference between M1, M2, and M3, and why do we need three different money supply? Now, most of the time, the focus is on M1. When the question says, oh, there's an increase in money supply, 99% of the time, it is referring to a change in M1. Seldom do we use M2 or M3, except, of course, in DSE, we have some questions. The questions ask you to do some calculations, etc. But in this one refers mainly to MC questions. But in long questions, the component we normally deal with is always M1. Now, M1, why do we have M1? M1, if you recall yesterday lessons, we talk about, say, the definition of money, and the most important function of money, what stated by Stephen Cheung, is that as the medium of exchange. So M1 includes money, anything, money. Well, here, of course, we are referring to the legal tender in Hong Kong. Money that serve mainly the purpose of medium of exchange. Anything that can be used, generally accepted, can be used as the medium of exchange will be put under M1. So what do we have? The economists will say, number one, your currency in circulation. That means the money in your pocket, the money flowing in the market, they are cash. They are cash. Can we use cash to settle for transactions? Of course you can. Legal tender, everybody has to accept it right here in Hong Kong because it's legal tender. It's currency backed up by the government. Number two, okay, this one sounds a little bit, well, not familiar. Demand deposit, demand deposit, demand deposit. What on earth is that? Is money stored in the current account or checking account? Now, checks are still a common means of settling payment. So you have ordered something, okay, well, just like this one, I need to settle my management fee. And what do? I write them a check each and every month. This month they dropped, not really late, perhaps because of the holiday. Normally I receive this note on the second day or so. I just received it yesterday. I write a check to settle for payment. So money stored in my checking account, or in a proper economic term, my demand deposit account can be used to settle for payment. It's generally accepted as the medium of exchange. Now, why is it called demand deposit? Why say if I go into the bank, I talk to the people or reception, hey, do you have a counter for demand deposit? They say, what do you say? But if you ask them, do you have a counter for current accounts? They say, oh, over there. And if you ask them, I would like to open a demand deposit account, and people will look at you, what? But if you tell them you're going to open a current account, you say, oh yes, sir. Good morning. Yes, I can help you. Now, economists use the term demand deposit instead of current accounts because the logic behind this account is you write a check. Whenever you write the check, you demand, well, of course, if your signature on it, okay, you demand your bank to pay that person the amount you've written on the check. So this is demanding the bank or your bank to pay the amount to the payee, I guess it's called. And therefore, it is called demand deposit. And because of this, well, you can write your check anytime, you can present your check anytime, and the bank has to go through all this trouble for you. Remember, you have the clearing house I talked about yesterday. So the checks has to balance off each and every bank. They have lots of work to do after you write the check. And therefore, they do not provide interest. Normally, they do not provide interest because of all this trouble they have to go through whenever you write a check. Okay, so never mind. M1, normally we put down CC, currency in circulation, plus DD, demand deposit. Now, I guess it's not really hard to remember these two terms, CCDD, CCDD, right? So you have to know that M1 refers to CC and DD. Now, what about M2? M2, the interesting thing is M2 includes M1. It's just like adding extra onto M1, right? So what do we add onto M1? We add all the deposits offered by licensed banks. And therefore, you have the LB, the subscript LB for the coming three terms: savings, time deposits, and negotiable certificate of deposit. Right, we go through this yesterday as well. NCD, very similar to time deposit. The only difference is NCD, as the name implies, is negotiable. That means you can sell it. You can sell it back to the bank. Well, they will still give you interest up to that particular day, but they will definitely charge you. But for time deposit, if you terminate your time deposit before the maturity date, you don't have 1 cent of interest. Even if it is the second last day or whatever, you make you open start a time deposit with 3 months of maturity period, and on the 28th day of the second month you said, oh, okay, I would like to get my money back. The bank says, yeah, you're welcome anytime, but we are not going to give you 1 cent of interest. That is the problem. Okay, so M2 is actually M1 adding all the common deposits offered by the licensed bank. Okay, how is M2 different from M1 besides adding these 3 elements? Well, simple. The purpose of M1 is quite different from M2. M1 emphasizes the medium of exchange function, whereas M2 and M3 emphasize the store of value function, because you can see all these different types of deposits right here inside M2. Now, in MC questions, they will ask you something like this. They'll put up a question like, which of the following statements is correct? So M1 includes currency in circulation plus demand deposit. Number 2, M1 stress the store of value function of money. Number 3, M2 includes M1 plus common deposits from licensed bank. You know, A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, 1 and 2 only, D, 1, 3 only. You see, say they will put up questions like this. So you have to be aware, M2 and M3, they stress very different functions than function 1, than M1. M1 emphasize the medium of exchange function of money, whereas M2 and M3 emphasize the store of value function of money. So we come down to the last term, M3. Oh, M3 includes M2. That means M3, you also have M1, because M1 is inside M2, and M3 has M2 in it. And therefore, you can imagine, if you increase M1, what is going to happen? M2 will increase. M3 will also increase, because M2 has M1 and M3 has M2. Now, this is the tricky part. This is the tricky part. They always put up questions like, oh, okay, something happened to M3, people withdraw money from M3, and then they keep so much that amount as cash, and they put some money into time deposit with a licensed bank, which is in M2, and they remit a certain amount of money overseas. Ooh, that money is gone. It's not currency in circulation. That kind of thing. We'll come to this after we finish this part. Now, as I've said, M3 also stress the store of value function. Store of value, that means mainly all kinds of deposits account. Well, we already have the license bank, savings, time, and NCD. What else is left? Now, remember the 3-tier banking system, right? We covered that one yesterday. 3-tier banking system. Well, we have licensed banks, which the government have a very close watch over them. The requirements are pretty tough, pretty strict. Second, we have restricted license bank, mainly the merchant banks. And finally, we have the deposit taking companies. So here, the last two tiers, they are only allowed to accept time deposit. This one has to be 500,000 or more, no maturity period fixed. NCDs by restricted license bank, right? Same thing. And here, time deposit, minimum of 3 months, minimum of $100,000. Okay, so the money in these accounts also serve as the store of valued purpose. And therefore, M3 has to include deposits with these two tiers as well. Okay, so note items in M2 M3 are interest bearing. All right, whereas M1 that implies M1 gives no interest. Your time deposit, your demand deposit, as I've said, because you're demanding the bank to do this transaction for you anytime you like, they have to go through a lot of trouble. Therefore, they do not offer you interest. And currency in circulation, of course, there's no interest. What is the cost of holding cash? What is the cost of holding cash? Opportunity cost. You have cash right here. That means they are no longer in the bank. If they are in the bank, you get interest. So the cost of holding cash is your forego the interest from holding this one, from this amount, from this dollar. Okay. So the second notice here, a change in M1 will always affect both M2 and M3 because M1 is in M2 and M3 as well. So be very careful about this one. Now let's take a look at an example. What kind of questions? This is a very simplified one. Do we expect in the DSE exam? As I said, mainly multiple choice questions. Okay, now Grace deposit $1,000 cash. So this is currency in circulation. All right, she got $1,000 right here. She's now depositing into her, not saving, not demand deposit account, deposit into her savings account with a licensed bank. Okay, there's only only licensed bank can offer savings account. The others can only offer time deposit or NCD. So what is going to happen? M1, your currency in circulation will drop by $1,000 as cash now, well, will be kept in prison. They will go into the bank and stay there. All right, so M1, you have a drop in CC by $1,000. There's no change in DD, no change in DD. The money is not deposit. The money is not being deposited into demand deposit. The money is being deposited into saving. So this one is M2. Now, what is going to happen to M2? The first thing, well, you have M1 lining at the very front. So M1, as I have just said, drops by $1,000 because your CC dropped. Small letter. Your CC dropped. So this go down by 1K, but then savings deposit increased by the same $1,000. There's no change. There's no change in time deposit or negotiable certificate of deposit. And therefore, these two cancel each other out. All right, you could drop 1K, you increase 1K, and therefore no change in M2. So we have here no change in M2. All right. The drop in 1K completely offset by the increase in 1K. Now M3, M2 has no change. M2 remains constant. Well, there's no change with deposit with LLB and DTC because the money is being deposited into the licensed bank, not restricted licensed bank, nor deposit-taking company. And therefore, there's no change in M3. Now, normally, the question won't be that easy. Well, I'll give you an example. I'll try to work out some classwork for you perhaps later today. The classwork will be going from easy, medium, and then perhaps advanced. Now, normally you would expect something like this. For example, I just made it up. Mr. Chen withdraws, okay, $100,000. Oh, 500 from a time deposit with DTC. Okay, so he keeps 100,000 as cash. Wow. Deposit 20 or 30 as time deposit with Yates, with licensed bank, remit to Canada. So they're going to ask you, what will be the change in M1, M2, and M3? Something like this. So it is kind of, well, you can say a little bit more complicated than the example we have up here. All right. So practically speaking, you see, okay, drop withdraws $5,000 from time deposit with DTC. Therefore, the first reaction will be you have a drop in M3, right? Your M3 drop. Now, the thing is that one he keeps 100,000 as cash. That means your CC, which is in M1, your CC in M1 increase. Now you have a drop in 500, but you increase M1 by 100. That means your actual drop in M3 now becomes 400 instead of 5 because your M1 increased. And you have to work this out step by step. Okay, you have to work this out step by step. And I would say I really hate this type of question. You have to have a very clear mind. And normally what we do is that we'll write out M1, M2, M3. Okay, the first step is drop by 500. Okay, because it is with the deposit-taking company, and therefore there won't be any change in M1 and M2. Now, the second thing is you increase M1 by 100, right? Currency in circulation. That means your M2 also increased by 100. All right. And you have this increase. This has to be increased by 100 as well. And you do this step by step until you go to, okay, you finish the last transaction, and then you find out what is the change in M1, M2, and M3. All right, I have 10 minutes or less, so it is 28. That means I will be off at 36 or so. Okay, so let's hurry back. Oops. Now, the second topic, which is here, is the most important one, which is what we call the deposit or credit creation. Now, we have creation, and at the same time, we also have contraction, credit or deposit contraction. Now, this is important. And contraction, on the contrary, is a little bit more difficult. But as I have said, not to you, not to everyone of you for the early birds, I'll give you sufficient examples and exercise to work on, and they are all the same. As long as you follow the rule of thumb, single rule of thumb, and you have sufficient practice, that means you work this out 5 or 6 times, you understand what is going on, you understand the logic, well, nothing can trouble you. But if you are not listening, if you are not paying attention, and if you don't work out the exercise, well, you don't understand why I have to multiply this one by this one and minus this one, that kind of thing, well, you will have a hard time. Okay. So what is this thing? What deposit or credit creation? We go through the credit creation first. 80% of the time we have credit creation. 20% of the time we have credit contraction. So let's deal with the easy one first. Now, we have to use money for our daily transaction. And if you go back to the first paragraph of this set of notes, we have a definition of money supply. Well, we have 10 billion worth of money printed in Hong Kong. Okay, so is 10 billion sufficient for a daily transaction? Well, the answer is definitely no. Definitely no. Then how much do we have to print? Do we have to keep printing? The answer is no, no need. Because of the credit creation process, your $100 not printed can actually be used to purchase more than $100 worth of goods or services. You kidding me? You kidding me? It's $100 note. The best you can buy, the most you can buy is $100. No. In reality, that is not. Probably you can, or not you, the economy, people in the economy can spend more or less $300 or even $400 out of this $100 note. Now, how can this be? How can this be? Okay, separate just came in. We have only 6 minutes, and then we have to have a break. Okay, now before we talk about this, we have to note a number of assumptions. The first assumption is that the banking system, the banking system can have one or more than one bank. Now, many have this wrong impression, misconception that, okay, you're under credit creation, there must be more than one bank. No, 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 no. Even one bank can do the credit creation thing. Now, banking system, no matter how many banks there are, adopts a fractional reserve system. Now, what does that mean? Anyone put in a deposit, the bank are not required to keep all that money. They only have to keep a fraction, for example, 20%. Okay, so that means if I put in, I deposit $100 into HSBC, will HSBC keep my $100 in their wallet? No, they only keep about $20. Then what happened to the remaining $80? Well, simple. Banks make money mainly by giving out loans. So they will try to lend the money out in order to get interest. The 20% kept in the bank are what we call required reserve. Required reserve. Okay, the remaining $80 that can be loaned out are called excess reserved. Legally, they can be loaned out. Okay. Assumption number one, must be using a fractional reserve system, or else there's no credit creation. Oh, now no fractional reserve system means $100 deposit into the bank, $100 deposit in the bank will have to keep that $100. So if we have no fractional reserve system, that means bank have to keep all deposits. That implies no excess reserve. No money can be loaned out. Okay, so number two, we are only using demand deposit. This is for simplicity purpose. This is for simplicity purpose. Number three, there's no cash leakage. Now, this one, of course, won't happen in reality. What does that mean? All money will eventually flow back into the banking system. People will not keep cash for transaction. Then how do they do transactions? Demand deposit. They write out checks. They use checks to settle for payment. All right. And number four, there's sufficient demand for loans. Whenever there is excess reserve in the bank, people will come in. Hey, I want money. I want to give me money. Give me money. I'll make a loan. I need to make a loan. That kind of thing. So let's stop here for 15 minutes break. We come back at 11:50. All right, because they are going to cut us out. All right, so come back at 11:50. Know this 1, 2, 3, 4 assumptions for the time being. Okay, see you at 11:50.